This is George from High Tech Legion. You know, when you're looking at liquid cooling, there are a lot of things that go into directly affecting the performance of a liquid cooler. And if you're putting together your own loop, you're really going to be looking at these things, you know, the flow rate of the pump. You're going to be looking at the materials of the radiator, the FPI of the radiator, you know, the fans. You're going to want to match up to that FPI to get, you know, optimal performance, keep your noise down, you know, design it, whether you're going to use high RPM or low RPM fans. You're going to choose a tubing size, you know, according to resistance and, of course, you know, as well as looks. But, you know, when it comes to CLCs, it becomes an entirely different matter. You're basically getting, you know, the same block and pump with, you know, a lot of the CLCs that are out there. If it's not the same block and pump, they're very, very similar, especially the flow rates of the pump, you know, and the tubing that's used. So also the designs of the radiators is almost identical on all of them. You know, an exception, of course, being the Zalman. But in general, you're looking at an aluminum radiator with very, very high FPI that needs high RPM fans to get air moving through it. So basically, you know, when you're looking at this, it comes down to he who has the most surface area and the highest output fans is going to win. So today we're going to take a look at two pieces that are larger than your standard 240 millimeter radiators. We're going to take a look at the Kraken X61, which sports a dual 140 millimeter radiator, and the Thermaltake Water 3.0 Ultimate with a 360 millimeter radiator. The Water 3.0 Ultimate is the first CLC we've seen sporting a 360 millimeter form factor. This does give it a huge size advantage, just actually a little bit over the NZXT X60, X61. So you've got about 43,200 square millimeters of surface area here with the Water 3.0 Ultimate, compared to 39,200 with the NZXT X60, X61 using the 280 millimeter form factor. So you got a little bit more surface area here to work with. Now getting a quick look at the box. As you can see here, Water 3.0 Ultimate, you get a nice picture on the front of it. Top of the line liquid cooling, equipped with power and performance, 360 millimeter radiator, doubles the cooling surface, universal socket compatibility. And going around to the back, get a look at a couple of the features. There's strangely a comparison with an Intel box cooler. One would hope that this would outperform Intel box cooler by a bit. High performance copper base plate, accelerates heat conductivity, high reliability, low profile pump, provides quick liquid circulation, pre-filled coolant reduces the liquid replenishment hassle. Now keep in mind, you know, it is a CLC, comes pre-filled, no maintenance, you never have to worry about it. So that, you know, it has going for it. Low evaporation tube decreases the loss of coolant effectively. So, you know, you've got a lower evaporation point in the unit itself, so it's going to take longer for the liquid to dry up. 360 millimeter radiator maximizes the surface for best cooling power. Triple 120 millimeter PWM fans. Universal socket compatibility, of course, AMD FM1, FM2, AM2, AM3, LGA 2011, and that includes the X99 platform, LGA 1366, 1155, 56, and 50. And moving around to the bottom, just a couple of quick specs to look at here. We see that the fans are 1,000 to 2,000 RPM. Max 99 CFM, so they're going to move a lot of air, and its claimed noise level is only 20 dBA. Now that's a lot of air movement for that amount of noise, so not sure about that. We're going to see how that works out. Pump motor speed is 3,000 RPM. Typically what we see from an Ace-Tech pump is exactly that. Like I say, you know, the pump is shared with a lot of other Ace-Tech OEM products. The radiator, 393 millimeters by 120 by 27 millimeters thick. So that with the fans is going to be about 52 millimeters thick, something to keep in mind. Length 326 millimeters of the tubing, and the tubing is made of rubber. Now let's take a look at the unit itself. You know, I'm actually going to first start with the fan. Like I say, pretty simple piece. 1,000 to 2,000 RPM, PWM controlled, as you see right here. Very, very simple. Does use The Thermaltake design we've seen in the past with the split fin does reduce noise, increase static pressure a little bit. So it's nice to see, you know, that Thermaltake, I'm hoping they're going to take advantage of the larger surface area to bring down the noise a bit. You know, we've seen that in the past. More surface area, if you can, you know, get a little less air moving through there and take advantage of the passive cooling, you're not going to have as much noise. Now, looking at the unit itself, pretty simple unit. Nothing we haven't seen before, just with, you know, an extra 120 millimeters added to it. Standard, typical 24 to 26 FPI, all aluminum radiator, finished all in black, 27 millimeters thick, top and bottom mounts for the fans, as you see. And pump itself has just the simple 3-pin for power coming off it. This is actually one of the things I've really liked that Thermaltake does. When they do their CLCs, pump just gets straight power, no problem. Then you plug your fans into your PWM, and you actually can control them, you know, with your motherboard software. There's no additional software necessary, no nothing, you know, gunking up your system or anything being, you know, confused. So pretty easy to work with. You know, taking a look, thermal paste is pre-applied, as you see here, onto the copper block. And top of the unit itself has the Thermaltake logo. As you see, it is not a light up top, just Thermaltake Water 3.0 logo. You do have, obviously, swivel on your fittings on the base itself, and they are static up top. The accessories kit starts out with 2 copies of Thermaltake's warranty policies, very, very multi-language, as you see. And next, installation instructions, really, really nicely laid out. There is no written instruction. It is all completely pictures. So you're going to have to follow along with the pictures. I do wish there was some explanation. I mean, here it does say rotate, but you know, should be some explanation. For example, you know, where you've got the Intel 775, 1150, and 1366, you know, where it's got to be moved, there should be a little explanation there. But what can you do? AMD installation instructions on the other side. And mounting kits itself, you've got the AMD backplate and mounting ring, Intel backplate and mounting ring. This is used for 1366, 775 on the 1150 series. You've got 2011 kit is simply bolts. These are inserts for the mounting rings, which we'll be looking at during the install. The bolt down kit, your fan screws, a really nice inclusion, 3-way splitter for PWM. Now, if you don't want to use all 3, if you have 2 motherboard headers and you're going to put one fan into one motherboard header and the other 2 into the other, make sure you use the 4-pin on one of the fans so you can get a fan reading. Otherwise, it's not going to operate correctly. So just make sure you always use that, even if you're only using 2. If you're using 3, obviously not a problem. And the locking ring, which we'll get a look at when we do the install. And the first step we're going to take in getting the install together is mounting the fans. Obviously, 4 holes in the fans line up with the holes. One thing you do want to make sure of, first off, I'm going to be doing this everything's going to be mounted with the fans in exhaust. So make sure you've got your fans all facing the correct way. Now I'm also going to be pushing up through and I'm going to be mounting the radiator to the case. If you're going to be mounting the fans to the case, obviously you wouldn't mount the fans first. This would all go up as an assembly together with the long screw dropping down through the case, then through the fan into the radiator. But we're not doing that like I say. We're going to mount the fans first, then mount the radiator directly to the case. So we're just going to use long screws. You've also got the short screws included, and those will be to mount radiator to the case directly. So just get all your fans lined up. And start dropping your screws in and tighten them up. Put the fans in place, I'm going to get the block ready. I'm doing an Intel, so I'm going to use the Intel mount. And take your block, and same will go for the AMD mount, as you see. Same principle entirely. And what you're going to do, take the mount, and you'll see this is ridged, as is this. Drop it on, line it up, so that it interlocks, and you want your tubes flat against one of the sides. That's going to allow you to get it lined up, with your tubes, top to bottom or side to side. Take your retaining ring, on the four corners, snaps into place, and that'll hold everything together. So now when we go to put it into the case, this is, as you see, all together, one piece, not going anywhere, easy to work with. Next, and you could actually do this prior to putting the bracket on the pump itself, which I probably should have. You're going to need to put in the mount holes. As you see, they're actually not symmetrical. You want to put the hole to the inside for 1155, 1156, and 1150, to the outside for 1366 or 2011. So what you want to do, and make sure you got the right side up, the side with the three prongs goes down away from the top, and this side will go in. Get your side correct, and it will fit into place around the top. You've got the other side of it right here, and it will snap into place. And of course you want to repeat that on all four corners. Make sure you've got, like I say, your holes lined up correctly. And with that completed, you're all set up to go in the case. Our first step of the installation is going to be getting the backplate into place. Now you'll notice the backplate does, the four corners do slide, the four nuts, I should say, will slide within the backplate. You want them in for 1150 series, out for 1366. So we're going to move them in, and also it does come with two pieces of double-sided tape, if you like, which can be placed right here, and we'll stick the backplate to the motherboard. Personally, I'm not a real fan of putting tape on my motherboard, so I'm just going to put it into place, and we'll be able to actually just reach around and hold it without a problem. So, backplate into place. Let's move around to the other side. Now, the instruction manual will tell you to mount the pump first. Personally, I find it much, much easier to mount the radiator first, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. Obviously, like we say, we're just going to be screwing it in. We'll move it into place. Make sure you clear all your wiring. Get it into the location you like. Short screws. You can use a washer if you like. You may need it depending on your case. And once you've got all your screws into place, you can then mount the pump. And obviously, you got quite a few screws to put in here, so take you a minute. I'm actually just putting in a few just to hold it into place for right now. And once you're in place, as you see, you've got a good amount of room to work with here. As far as the tubing goes, getting your pump into place. Obviously, you're going to want to get your motor 3.0 right side up. And with that in place, we're going to take, very important, you note which ones you're grabbing. The 2011s are different than the AMD and other Intels, and put them right through, and they'll actually get held. And if you come apart a little there, not the end of the world. Just push your holder back into place. And the final one, I'm using a pre-applied thermal paste. Of course, if you're going to change the thermal paste, clean it very well. During the benchmarking session, we will be using Noctua NH21, so we'll clean it off with alcohol prior to actually doing that and applying the new thermal paste. So we're going to get it into place. Get our first nut started. These are just thumb screws, turn very, very easily. I'm lined up. You want to start all four and then tighten up in the next pattern, and they will stop when they are tight enough. You don't want to over tighten them. You want to tighten them until you feel the stop. Around. And you're tight, and your cooler is in place. Now wiring up, use the three-way splitter. Get our fan wiring in. And obviously going to go to one of the CPU fan headers on the board so that we'll be able to control the fan speed. And of course you can hide and tuck your wiring however you see fit. And finally the pump, you need to plug it into a header that is constantly 12 volts, can't be variable voltage. So if you're plugging it into a system fan header, make sure you disable any fan control in BIOS and you have it maxed. I actually have one of those right here. Plug it in, and we're all set. As you can see, I mean, the Thermaltake Water 3.0 Ultimate with the 360-degree radiator looks really pretty awesome in the case. You know, definitely a lot of surface area, very, very large cooler. Doesn't have the light up like I said, you know, that some of the CLCs do, but you've got the nice Thermaltake logo with the Water 3.0 across it. Very easy install and really good looking in the case. Taking a look at the performance numbers, first let's start with stock CPU speeds, and you know, nothing unexpected here. You know, this class of cooler is not going to have a problem whatsoever, you know, with this stock temp. Nothing sticks out here whatsoever. Even turning the fans down, keeping things below 40 dB, absolutely nothing stands out here either. You know, you get great temps across the board, obviously from all these coolers with very, very little variation with stock temps, but you're not buying, you know, this kind of cooler to put on a stock clocked processor. So we're going to speed things up to 4.4 gigahertz and throw 1.206 volts into it with maximum fan. You know, one number that actually does stick out here is the 54 dB on the Water 3.0 Ultimate. That's a full 14 dB less than the dual fan Corsair H100i. So Thermaltake's doing a beautiful job here of using the passive capabilities of that 360 millimeter radiator, you know, to great effect to keep the noise down. You know, I'm really happy to see they didn't just, you know, jam the loudest fans they could in there to try and get the most air going through. They've got a nice balance here, and as you can see, the performance is absolutely outstanding. Second only to the Swiftech H220X. Now, quieting things down a bit and keeping everything below 40 dB, we had to bring the Thermaltake Water 3.0's fans down to about 1450 RPM, and you see, brings it down to 40 dB, very, very livable. And the temperatures are excellent. This is the first CLC we've seen that's actually matching the big air coolers top flight air coolers as far as performance to noise. So like I say, Thermaltake really did a nice job here, taking good advantage of the 360 millimeter radiator, and as you can see, you get a huge difference here, 6-degree difference from the Corsair H100i, which is many consider the top of the line 240 millimeter. It does lag behind the Swiftech H220X a little bit, by 3 degrees, which is a nominal difference. But of course, you have to remember the Swiftech is sporting a much higher flow pump, and it's also sporting a 240 millimeter radiator that's made from copper and brass, not aluminum. It's also low FPI, so it's naturally quieter to begin with. So, I mean, all in all, I think Thermaltake did a fantastic job in outfitting the Water 3.0 Ultimate. As much as I'm not a fan of the let's just make it bigger approach, I have to say that Thermaltake did a really nice job working within the constraints they had, with the parts that Acetech actually makes. They could have gone with, just, hey, let's throw some 2,700 RPM fans on there, make a lot of noise, and, put up some really good-looking numbers. They didn't take that approach. They actually took great advantage of the increased natural dissipation of the 360 millimeter radiator, and use some quieter fans. It's actually significantly quieter than most of the 240 millimeter pieces we saw in the market, and keeping it around 40 dB, it keeps up with the big air coolers, which is the first time we've seen that out of a CLC. Now I'm going to give the Thermaltake Water 3.0 Ultimate High-Tech Legion Gold Award. Reason for that being, would have gotten the editor's choice, but Thermaltake did stay with just the stock Acetech mounting kit, which is not the best mounting kit around. We have seen improvements on it from a couple of other manufacturers, and I would have liked to have seen that. But performance-wise, really hard to argue with, and noise-wise, it's really hard to argue with. You can go into a 240 millimeter open loop AIO like the Swiftech H220X, and you will get slightly better performance with even less noise. But if you're looking to stay strictly CLC for some reason, the Water 3.0 Ultimate is the end-all be-all as far as cooling performance. You will have some compatibility issues. Make sure that your case is ready for a 360 millimeter radiator, and that you're going to have the clearance between the top of the case and the motherboard, for the 52 millimeters that you're going to need. So once again, nice job by Thermaltake using what they had to work with the Water 3.0 Ultimate, and easy winner of a High-Tech Legion Gold Award.